Welcome to part 5 of this series, the Roman Empire and the Holy Land. In this video we're going to be looking at two sons of Japheth and one son of Shem. We're going to look first at Javan, son of Japheth. Let's look at the book of Jubilees. It says, "And for Javan came forth the fourth portion of every island, and the islands which are towards the border of Lud." So it mentions Javan and it also mentions Lud. That's why we're also going to speak about Lud in this video. Now when it says the fourth portion of every island, that makes me think that we should be looking for Javan to be spread across a vast region and not just occupying one country on its own, let's say. And the Bible says that Javan had 4 sons. We're just going to look at a few of them in this video. Let's start with Elishah, son of Javan. And we're going to look at this Portuguese tradition. It says, "The Portuguese orator and mythographer Father Antonio Vieira refers to Elishah as founder and eponym of Lisbon and Lusitania when he came to Iberia with his uncle Tubal." So that's why I wanted to read this one, because how it says Elishah coming to the Iberian Peninsula with his uncle Tubal. So that supports what we were saying in the previous video with Tubal and the Iberian Peninsula. But then it also goes on to say, Vieira also identified Elishah's biblical brother Tarshish as the founder of Tartessos in Andalusia, implying both would have come to Iberia with Tubal, though this isn't the only theory on the identity of Tarshish. So there are quite a few different theories about where was this land of Tarshish of the Bible, but we do have this one theory with Tartessos in southern Spain. So this tradition is saying that 2 sons of Javan coming to the Iberian Peninsula. So that's why I've got Tarshish here in southern Spain, because this is where they say the kingdom of Tartessos was. And then I've got Elishah here with let's say with the country we know as Portugal today. Now the Kittim, we spoke about the Kittim in the previous video with the story from the book of Joshua with the war between Kittim and Tubal. So we spoke about the Kittim in the connection with Italy, but I would like to read something from this page on the Kittim. It says, "The Septuagint translates the occurrence of Kittim in the book of Daniel as Romans." So this is important for thinking about the Romans, and the Septuagint connects them with the Kittim. But then it also says in 1 Maccabees, it states that Alexander the Great, the Macedonian, had come from the land of Kittim. So we have these 2 main ideas connecting the Kittim with either the Romans or the Macedonians. So I think what we can see so far, looking at just reading a bit of information and looking at a few of these sons of Javan, that the book of Jubilees seems to be accurate the way it describes Javan occupying the 4th portion of every island, and that they'd be sharing the territory. So we see here on the Iberian Peninsula, if this is accurate, Elishah and Tarshish sharing the land with Meshach and Tubal, and then here with the Kittim, they're sharing the land with Tubal and maybe other tribes as well. So I think this just helps for our perspective that we must think about Javan inhabiting across the whole Mediterranean. Okay, now we're going to look at Lud, son of Shem. So we've mentioned this verse with Javan and Lud, but there was another one that we spoke about in the previous video with Tubal and Lud. Let's read this one quickly. "And for Tubal there came forth the 5th portion in the midst of the tongue which approacheth towards the portion of the border, towards the border of the portion of Lud, to the 2nd tongue, to the region beyond the 2nd tongue, unto the 3rd tongue." So it's quite difficult to know exactly what it means. So I think that's why there's some different opinions on Tubal. But if you notice the way this country that we know as Italy, how it seems to come towards North Africa, and that's why I've got Lud here with a question mark, because that's the way I'm interpreting it. That when we spoke about how Tubal was living in this land alongside the Kittim, so I think that's what it's saying when it says that Tubal's occupying to the midst of the 2nd tongue. So maybe towards the middle of this peninsula that reaches towards the border or towards the territory of Lud. So that's why I've got Lud here with a question mark. because it's not clear exactly what Jubilees means, and there are some different views on it, and also the difference in location, because we're told that this kingdom of Lydia is in this region that we know as Asia Minor or Anatolia. So it's quite a big difference with where was Lud son of Shem. But I saw something interesting with this page on the Ludim. Now, before we read this part that I've highlighted, it does say here that these Ludim should not be confused with another group who are said to descend from Lud, son of Shem, son of Noah. So it's saying that we shouldn't confuse the Ludim with Lud. But let's read what this part here says. The biblical scholar Victor P. Hamilton believes that the available evidence suggests that the Ludim are the Lydians. According to Josephus, their land was in Libya, which was west of Egypt near the tribes of Put in the land of the Moors, towards the extreme west of Africa and the Atlantic Ocean. So this would support the way I've kind of laid it out on the map. Pliny in his natural history mentions the river Lud along south of the Atlas Mountains near the river Put. So another connection with Lud and North Africa. And then we have another one here with a connection to Tunis and Tunisia. So that's that does support the way I've got Lud here in North Africa towards Tunisia, but to the west of Libya. And if we look at some Bible verses, it does support this. From Ezekiel, it mentions Persia and Lud and Put were in your army. So we see how it mentions Lud alongside Put, and we know Put was connected with Libya. And another one from Ezekiel, Ethiopia, Put, and Lud. So we see how Lud is mentioned alongside Libya. And then I noticed another verse from Isaiah, the book of Isaiah. It mentions Tarshish and Lud, Tubal and Javan. So we see how Lud's mentioned alongside Javan, Tubal and Tarshish. And if we look at this map, how we see the way I've laid it out, so we've got Lud, Javan, Tarshish, Tubal. But then we can also see how Lud can be mentioned alongside Libya as well. So that's very interesting for Lud, son of Shem. And then it also could have implications on the history and the way the Roman Empire might expand. So that's what we're going to start speaking about, because I'd like to also speak about Gomer, son of Japheth. Now if we go to the work of Josephus, he speaks about Gomer. So I think it's here. For Gomer founded those whom the Greeks now call Galatians, or Gauls, but were then called Gomerites. So the Galatians coming from Gomer, or the Gauls. Now Gaul, there were the very famous wars between Rome and Gaul predominantly France and Belgium, but reaching towards Germania. But the interesting thing is that if we're looking for Galatia on the map, it brings us to Asia Minor. We see here, look, Galatia. But I did notice that we also have a place in Spain called Galicia. In northwestern Spain, you can see it highlighted here. Now, for this to be called Galicia, there must have been Gauls living in this region. So the history will show that there's Gauls living in this region in order for it to become known as Galicia. So I've got Gauls here, and I saw something interesting with this Nuremberg Chronicle. So it's called the Nuremberg Chronicle. It was finished in 1493, and it says, Gomer, firstborn of Japheth, came to Europe and established the Gomerites, whom the Greeks called the Galatians, and after them the country was named Galatia. This country borders on Hispania and Lusitania, which lie to the south. So according to the chronicler, this country known as Galatia was in the Iberian Peninsula, where we have here the Gauls, or how we know it today as Galicia. So it's very interesting. But then it does go on to, it gives a clarification here. So there's a clarification made here. It says, the chronicler appears to refer to those earliest inhabitants of Europe who came from Asia into Galicia, the most northwesterly province in Spain. He does not refer to Galatia, a province of Asia Minor, inhabited by the Galatians to whom Paul wrote. So this is how we finished the first series. We were, asking the question, if the Apostle Paul is writing these epistles to the Galatians, where are those epistles going? Are they going to, this region in Turkey, or are they coming to Galicia or Galatia in Spain? Because we can see how the chronicler actually calls this region, or this country, he calls it Galatia. And that's another one of these things that's going to be very important for trying to understand this history and the Romans, because if you think about what we've covered so far, just do a quick recap, how we saw Meshach identified as Cappadocians, and now in this video we're looking for Tarshish here in southern Spain, and now we have this country here, or this region we know as Galicia, but in the chronicle called Galatia. So you can see the picture that's emerging. So Cappadocia, Tarshish. Let me just tell you about this, because in the work of Josephus it says that Tarsus was Cilicia of old called. So Tarsus was also known as Cilicia. So then if this is correct with Tarshish here, this could be the land of Cilicia. And then we also have Galatia. So that's what I started to see on this map, because you can see that we have Cappadocia, Cilicia, and Galatia. So we just asked the question, have these kingdoms been moved on the map? Are these kingdoms that are here in the east really supposed to be here in the west? And then that would have a massive impact on the history with the Roman Empire, which we're speaking about, and how the Roman Empire would grow. It would have an influence on that information. Like on those videos where if you go on YouTube to see the history of the Roman Empire every year, this information would affect how you put that video together. So, it could be very important, this information, and we need to see if this theory we're putting forward holds up under scrutiny, if it works and it makes sense. But you can see how it does really make sense with just this example with Gaul, because we know this region as Gaul, so you can see how it makes sense for the Gauls to come into this region, and this region being known as Galatia. So now we're going to speak a bit more about the Romans. We're going towards the Romans, and then we're going to try to see if we can start speaking about how this Roman Empire expanded, and we've tried to lay a bit of a foundation to see, does what we've been what we've been speaking about, does it hold up when we try to think about how the Roman Empire expanded. So thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.